So lately, I've been working with this artist called 𝓑�ស៊𝗏𝗍. She's from Mississauga in Toronto area, and she's a real amazing, sort of very powerful voice, powerful singer. And she does. She'd like to think of herself as a rocky singer, but she's more of a torch singer, like just this deep, deep emotion. And the songs she sings are really poignant from her life experience. So it's like, yeah, I guess you know. Maybe an 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗍𝗑 meets heavy metal, or but it's not really metal. I mean, it is quite rocky and classic in the sense of her writing has got really classic tinges to it. But her voice is amazing and her performance is really incredible. So trying to develop her. I'm working at the moment with a guy called Ali Jaffrey. Ali and I were meant to be working last year, but unfortunately he suffered a bit of a family tragedy, and we weren't able to do anything. But this year we've picked it up, and we're in the process of pre-production right now, and we're going to go into the studio next week to start recording. His music is ethereal in some ways due to his current life experience. There's some very passionate moments, some aggressive moments. Right now, he's a guitar player, sitar player, but he's also percussionist, and so we're developing sort of a quite a spatial sounding project. Actually, there's a lot of depth to it, and it's going to have some pretty emotional lyrics in it too.
Okay, and I want to take a second to dive back into 𝓑𝗏𝗏𝗍 for a second, because I did take the time to listen to the 5-song EP. So it's the 𝓑𝗏𝗍𝗑 EP. I agree. She has an incredible voice. This is a big, powerful voice. The 5 songs really showcase the control as well. So it's not those all-out singers. It's like the dynamic range in her voice is ridiculous, from super quiet to very loud and powerful. My favorite song on the EP, Run was my favorite song. So it's one of the later songs on the EP. How did you actually discover her?
You know what? She's in the Toronto music scene, and she reached out to me at one point to see if I, could maybe help her with her music. And I listened to some demos, and she sent me some live performance videos, and that was what really sold me. I thought, wow, she's got really something. She can really deliver live. This is the thing. And I found that it's harder to know with that sort of thing when you don't get to see them live. But there were some videos out there where she was really on it and really powerful. And I thought, you know what, I like some of her songs, and maybe we could write some stuff together. And yeah, I just thought she was really, had a lot of potential. So I'm trying to help her out.
I did a little bit of digging, and I found out that you're both Led Zeppelin fans. Did you guys bond at all over some Led Zeppelin, or did you not know that she's a big Led Zeppelin fan?
I knew she was a Zeppelin fan. Yeah. We didn't really bond specifically over that, just music in general. I mean, she's a fan, and, Alf did some work with her too. So, and one of the songs that he had worked on, we took that and kind of developed it a little further and used it on her EP. So yeah, Alf did some amazing work on that and really helped earlier stages of her development before I got involved.
So I have some kind words here from 𝓑𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗑. So she sent in a quote. She says, "David brought my songs to life. He completely understood my vision, and honestly understood it more than me most of the time. He's a kind soul who makes music for the right reasons and truly cares about the artists he works with. I'm so grateful to work with him and to learn from him. He is brilliant." That's from 𝓑𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗑.
That's very kind of her to say. I hope we can do some more actually in the future. I'm really looking forward to doing some more work with her.
So another artist that you've worked with is Crown Lands. There's a huge buzz going on right now for them. They're fresh off of winning a Juno Award in 2021. And they have a new album that's coming out. I believe it's in March here, if I have it written down. Yeah, March 31st. And it looks like 2 singles have been released in advance. Can you talk to us a little bit about this? I listened to both of them, and I have a lot of good things to say.
Well, so Lady of the Lake's the last one that got put out. Again, it's very they deal with subjects that are quite ethereal at times, but it's rooted within the sort of Indigenous community that they write about. They're a 2-piece, as you know, for the most part. I think they might be adding in a bass player at some point, but they do it all for 2 pieces, and they create quite an amazingly huge sound for it just being 2 of them. And then the first single was 18 minutes long, as only a true prog lover would like. It's a long journey through lots of stories, and was a whole bunch of fun to make. So yeah, both people in the band, Kevin and Cody, are incredible musicians, incredible fun people to work with. Yeah, it's a great experience all around.
And when I was looking into the name, so you were talking about some of the lyrics deal with some indigenous topics, and that the term crown land is actually land that was taken. So even their name, it's all within, you know, the same image. And I thought that was pretty cool. So that 18-minute song is called 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗑 Part 2. I listened to that, and to me, even though it's just one song on an upcoming album, I felt like I listened to an entire album through that journey, you know, different time signatures and tempos and styles. And what, for our listeners that haven't had a chance, they'll go listen to that song when they're done this interview. Can you give them just like a little hint of what that experience is like to listen to that song?
It's in the true sense of progressive music. They wrote a song that is kind of like an overture for the album. Really, it makes nods to different other songs in the project, and takes you on a sonic and a musical journey, like prog music does. They explore lots of time signatures, lots of different melodic moments, some lyrics, some instrumental pieces. It's a prog opus, really.
So I know you have a lot of experience with challenging music from King Crimson and Tool and Peter Gabriel. Is it a lot more challenging to record a song like that's 18 minutes versus a normal 4-minute pop song? Is it a big challenge, or it's all just music and you know what you're doing in there?
Well, the only challenge is length. So I find that the longer a song takes, the just a longer song is rather, progressively the longer it takes to record. We actually, you know, as a bit of a secret, we recorded it in chunks for the most part, got our sections together, edited it together, and recorded it in pieces. But it's kind of like doing an entire EP in one go, right? But so, you know, I treated it as, you know, each section has its own character and has its own mood. And, you know, we ran with that. We didn't run away from that. We didn't try to make it so that it's one thing all the way through, but that it is like an entire piece of music to be listened to really in one go. You can go section by section if you like, but it really does flow, I think, very well together. So for me, it's like it's one piece of music. If you have the time and you're interested in listening to that kind of music, then it's, I think, very satisfying.
So they have an upcoming tour. They're playing across Ontario, and there's an Ottawa date, which is where I am. They're at the NAC, which is an incredible like Massey Hall type venue, and they're playing on April 10th with July Talk, so another great Canadian band. And the tickets are so cheap; they're like $23. I mean, I'm buying tickets to everything. They're $50, $100, $200. So if you want an amazing double bill, two great bands, in like too cheaper than it should be for how good these bands are. You guys should check that out. And I have some kind words here from one of the band members. So this is from 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗑 of Crown Lands. He says, "There are many things I love about Dave. I love his sense of humor. He's got a great laugh, and his taste in Indian food is second to none. He also has the most incredible grasp of music. I love working with him. Plus, he's a damn good bass player." So that's from Kevin from Crown Lands.
Well, I don't know if I really am a damn good bass player. I'm a functional bass player, I think. We had a great time a couple of months ago. We went in and wrote some songs, and we're still in the process of working on them at the moment, but it was great fun. One of the things I rarely get to do anymore is just play with people. So actually they were gracious enough to let me sort of hack along with them while we wrote a few songs, and I had a ball.
That's amazing. Another project you worked on is Deer en Gray. Am I saying that correctly? Deer in Gray. So this is a Japanese heavy metal band. They've been around since 1997. And that album, 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗑, is that correct?
I assume that's how you say it.
𝓑𝗹𝗑. Yeah. I have a way of butchering all the albums you worked on. That debuted at number 5 on the Japanese charts. That's a big deal. And man, so you mentioned to me that this was a remote mix. So for our listeners that don't know the difference between a mix, a remote mix, can you share a little bit about what that entails?
So back in the day when you used to mix something for somebody, they would fly you to a studio wherever they were, or you'd all fly into one studio, or they would come to your studio to do it. These days, flights are more expensive and Zoom is a thing. So basically bands send me the tracks. We communicate over Zoom or using a piece of software called Audio Movers Listen To, where they can listen to the tracks while I'm working on them, or I just work on the mix by myself, and then we do that at the very end to tweak the last few stages of it. But basically, it's somebody sends you their music and trusts you to mix it for them without them actually being in the room with you.
Okay, there you go. And the first single is Perfume of Sins. Man, this is such a thick sounding song, and it has to be in some kind of a drop tuning. I'm curious for if we have any audio engineers listening, just getting started. Do you have any, I guess, I mean, it takes a lifetime to master this stuff, but any quick tips on how to get such a thick sound? I guess the recording would have a big part to do with it, but anything on the mixing end that you can?
Yeah, the recording does. I think you really have to work with sort of stereo spatialness to make sure you got the thickness, and choosing your EQ wisely so that you're carving out areas within guitars for the bass, carving out areas in the bass for the bass drum. Like you just have to find your moments. And sometimes, like what I will often do with like the thickness of the bottom end, if the bass and the bass drum are both quite a fat sound, I'll often like it's like sidechain essentially, just certain frequencies out of the bass with the kick drum, so that when the kick is coming through, that's what's pumping through at the bottom. So you're not getting double up that sort of frequency. And they often will comb filter themselves. So I'll often utilize, a technique to when the kick drum is hitting, sometimes the bass, just some of the low frequency of the bass are coming out at that moment. Things like that, just carving out space for everything and making sure that, spread wise, everything's in its spot and everything's in its, got its own space to work. So you get the illusion of it being this big, thick thing, but you can still hear everything going on.
And when you mix, do you see it kind of visually like a painting where it's like, this is the size of the stereo space, and you have, say, bass and vocals in the middle, and something's panned hard left and right, and you can place things with the panning left and right, and then you can place things up and down with the frequencies, the low end and high end. Do you visually see it?
Yeah, I see it sort of visually, but I see it not only left and right, but I see it in depth as well. And the way that I do that is using different kinds of processing on things. Things are drier, things are wetter, basically, so that you can actually place them within the space, front and back, as well as left and right. And it's a balance of using processing effects to give it spatial dimension, as well as volume of things and where they're sitting and how deep they are in the reverb effect or the delay effect and how close they are. So you try and get both of those things. You try and make it as three-dimensional as you can with a pair of stereo speakers.
Another artist that you worked with, elsiane. What can you tell us about this project?
Okay, elsiane's super atmospheric project. Amazing singer, really unique style. Definitely has that kind of. It's almost like that way 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗑 sing. They have like almost multitonal characteristics to their voice. elsiane doesn't necessarily have all of that, but she has that tone that she has. It's a real specific and identifiable tone to her voice. And again, the passion with which she sings in multiple languages. And the whole atmosphere of what she does, incredible sounding thing. And the drummer is very much a fan of 𝓑𝗹𝗑, in fact. So the sort of drumming as a melodic part kind of thing. So he works that way, Steph does. So, between the two of them, they're also really just a two-piece. Now we hired bass players to play bass on it. But yeah, incredible stuff and beautiful atmosphere to what she does.
So you mentioned different languages. So the first single I listened to, I think, 𝓑𝗹𝗑𝗏. That's the best I can do. And with them, it was a mix of production and mixing.
Yes. Yeah. We did some production. I went to Quebec to a couple studios, one of which was Pierre Marchand, his studio. Pierre Marchand, who did a lot of work with Sarah McLachlan over the years, was originally in a band called 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗑 from Montreal years and years ago, when I met him back then, actually, at Grant Avenue Studios many, many, many years ago. So we used his studio for some, and then a couple of other studios in 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗑𝗏. And and then brought it here. They did some more work there. I did some work here, and it was a collaborative, sort of distant project. elsiane had to travel a lot down to South America for some personal reasons, so we were back and forth and doing lots of things. It took quite a while to do, but again, fantastic music, really, really beautiful. With that one too, that had to have that kind of dimension in it as well. And if you listen to it, the sort of it hopefully envelops you with the sound. That was the intention.
They brought you over into 𝓑𝗹𝗑𝗏𝗋. Did you? Was there any poutine over there? You can't. I mean, you can't not have.
I'm not a huge poutine fan. I'm sorry to say, I'm a
How
bad.
dare you, sir?
I know. I always find that poutine seems like a better idea at the time than afterwards.
Yeah, it's as soon as you're done, you regret it. But while it's happening, it's pretty spectacular.
I don't mind stealing a bit off of one of my friends who's having it, but yeah, whole plate.
Yeah, not so good. That's it's all Quebec has figured out the squeaky cheese curds, which makes all the difference. That's what they're famous for. So we have one more artist we'll dive into before your 5 albums, 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗑𝗏𝗏. So there's one song that I was able to listen to, Backslider, which was great. I believe that's the only song that's released off of the new album so far. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's the first single off of it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And you produced one song and then you mixed.
That's right.
The album. Okay.
Yeah. So I mixed the album for him, and then the one song, it's not out yet, the one that I produced, but I mixed the rest of it. Again, great 3-piece, power 3-piece. Very exciting, pretty interesting, young guys, but very switched on. Good solid vocals, good power in what they do. I went up to do some rehearsing with them at basically quite a ways north of Toronto in a container. They'd set up a container and built a little studio out of it, like a lot of people are doing with containers these days, getting used. It was great. It was a little thin, but I could see if you could knock a couple of them together, it'd be a great remote studio.
You got to dream on a budget while you're paying your dues, I suppose. So they are also on tour. This is another amazing double bill. They're playing with Protest the Hero, who are incredible musicians. So this is April 18th in Ottawa, but they have dates all across Ontario and Canada. And I have some kind words from one of the members of 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗑𝗏𝗏. This is from Steve. He says, Dave is an incredibly intuitive producer and mixer. He's very open-minded and did a great job of not trying to change who we were. Rather, he helped us showcase the best version of ourselves. He finds a great balance of being very detailed while also leaving room for spontaneity. My favorite thing about working with David is his energy and his passion for what he does. I enjoyed every minute of it. That's from Steve from 𝓑𝗹𝗸𝗑𝗏𝗏. Wow,
that's great. Do you ever get any bad quotes?
I would not share them, but no, they've all been good so far. Luckily, my guests are all pretty incredible, so I don't think there's any bad stuff, bad quotes going around.
Good things to say.
Good things to say. So